You are listening to the Bravo Creative Podcast, hosted by Tom Baker. Thank you for listening. Your position has been triangulated. Drone army has been dispatched to your location. Commencing attack run in 3, 2, 1.
Hello and welcome to the Bravo Creative Podcast, and thank you so very much for listening. Today's sponsor is Keep Frickin' Going. Just because it seems impossible doesn't mean that it is. Sometimes it feels like you're wasting your time trying things, or others will think that you're weird for going after it. And let me tell you that you're not wasting your time. You will learn something in the process that you can take with you. And if you're worried about others' perception of you thinking that you're weird, well, let me tell you a little secret. They're right. You are weird. We're all weird, but we just got to keep going. Don't stop. The Bravo Creative Podcast is vibrating your tympanic membrane by way of the Podbean, my weapon of choice. Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Spotify, YouTube, Amazon Prime Music, and Audible. And it's also linked off the Bravo Creative website at www.bravocreative.net/Bravo Podcast. And we're also on Facebook. So like and subscribe. You know that you want to. I want to apologize to my listening audience for not posting a podcast last week, but I needed a week off, and I took one. The Baker homestead was in dire need of some TLC, so we had a brush cutting party that nobody enjoyed too much. And it was St. Patrick's Day last week, and I took my annual trip, my annual, what do they call that?
Pilgrimage.
My annual pilgrimage up to Jefferson City to celebrate at the best place to be on St. Patrick's Day, Patty Malone's, and there was a lot of fun had by all. So here we are to my guest today. My guest today is an accomplished singer/musician, and of all of my guests, I can vouch that the sheer amount of hard work and dedication and rejection and getting back up and brushing himself off and doing it again and going at it again, he has been able to do it. He has been able to make it happen. He's my oldest, bestest friend. I've fought with him more than any other person on the planet, but I've also hugged the hell out of him a lot more than anyone else on the planet. I'd like to welcome to the microphone my brother from the same mother, David Baker. How you doing, bud?
Good, brother. Thanks for having me.
The stars aligned.
I know.
I'm still
enamored by all the cool toys you've got in here.
Right. So what have you been doing? You've had a kind of a cool week.
I did. I've been playing my rear end off, working, chasing kids, all that kind of stuff. But the difference this past week was I got my latest single finished up and put out last Friday, and so it was neat to see all the hard work on that kind of come to an end. Obviously move on to the next song, but it was still fun to see that come to an end and hear it played on the radio and then get whatever feedback you get. And then also being able to share that feedback with, the players, the pickers, your buddies that played on there. And
so this is the one we listened to in the kitchen, right?
Yeah, it's called Wooden Boats. I wrote that song probably, I guess, about a year and a half ago, maybe a little bit more. But it's one that I've had, kind of sitting for a while, and it kind of took on a new life. I would say probably maybe about 3 or 4 months ago. I played it and then just kind of thought, this just needs to do something a little bit different. And so changed the tempo up on it, and then it was like, ooh, I'm excited about it again, and let's record it and let's get it out there. And so that's what we did. And, thank God, I had, Tom Reichart, Jay Pelzer, Danny Lewis, and Mike Kivett. They were all playing on this thing, and
You're kind of the old band got back together.
It was
Because you guys all played together with Cherry Pistols back in the day.
So Danny is in the Dave Baker Band now, and then Tom and Jay and I were in BPR. And then we started.
Oh, that's right.
We were Baker Pelzer Reichart.
Yeah.
And then we started the Cherry Pistols. And then Mike Kivett was in the Cherry Pistols. And so, it was kind of. But it doesn't get much better than those guys. Musician-wise, they're on top.
You guys are always fun to watch. That was for sure. You guys guys always were having a good time up there on stage, and that was when you played. Was Cherry Pistols was it 80s rock?
It's pretty much 80s. Now, when we were Baker Pelzer Reichart, we played.
You played everything back then.
A little bit of everything. It was basically whatever the most complicated song we could come up with. Like, let's play that one.
If you didn't like that genre of music, go order another drink, come back, and you'll like the next one.
Yeah. I think Jay always said these were songs you forgot that you loved. I think is what I saw on the deal, which was pretty spot on. But yeah, we played anything from Hall & Oates to we played Stevie Wonder.
You guys did a few country songs too, didn't you?
Yeah, we did early on. I mean, it was just kind of,
whatever was fun to play.
Yeah. And then it was like, okay, well, if we really want to do this and take it serious and, get shows and make some money and make this worthwhile, like we better come up with a formula here. And so that's when we kind of just drifted and gravitated towards the 80s genre. And it worked out well because there's a lot of bands at the time that, 80s were big. And what you're seeing now, 10 years later, is you're seeing a lot of people really wanting to hear the 90s music. And so, now for me, there's not as many hits.
Don't do it. Don't do it.
Well, the band now, like we have a couple in there.
You can't do Warrant. No Cherry Pie.
No, that's a turd to sing anyway.
Well, and isn't that the one they said like killed rock and roll?
Could have been.
I think they did a documentary one time and they said that Warrant Cherry Pie was the song that killed rock and roll and ushered in Nirvana, because everybody was like, okay, we finally
this is it. This is the end.
We've
of it.
shot our wad here.
Yeah.
We got to go.
Yeah. This is the end of COVID.
Oh my gosh. So you released that. Where are you releasing that? It's not playing on radio stations across the world, but it is playing. It does have a distribution.
Well, so the type of music this is genre-wise is called trop rock. I guess you would call it trop rock. And trop rock is a genre of music that celebrates the island lifestyle, escapism, and that all kind of came about from Jimmy Buffett. And then you have, a lot of people that kind of came along and, try to write in the same vein as he was writing and is writing. And you notice a lot of country artists now do the same thing. They all go through a phase where it's island music, because there's a huge market for it.
Right.
And so this type of music is called trop rock. There's some radio stations out there. They're internet radio stations. And that's what they dedicate their material to is trop rock music, escapism. There's numerous other names for it.
A mutual friend of ours, Brad Jones, and his wife Brenda Jones, they're big time trop rock fans.
Yeah. They're who introduced me to it. Kind of got the ball rolling. Was Brad and Brenda.
And I guess this was probably 6 or 7 years ago. We went to Key West. We went to Meeting the Minds down there with them. And I'll be very honest with you. Like when I first listened to trop rock, I like Jimmy Buffett a lot. We both do. We listen to Jimmy Buffett a bunch. I'm not a huge fan of like that type of music all the time. When I first went down there, I was a little skeptical of that music. I was like, I can only put up with so much of that. And to be quite honest, I thought, it's it's all right. But when I got down to Key West, and you realize the music is an integral part of that party, that atmosphere that they're having down there. But if it's not like they don't party down there without music, and without music, there's no party. So it's kind of like there is a symbiance with it, but they all like that kind of sound. And at first I didn't really care for it, but then we went down there and I mean, there's a million shows all over the place. And it usually takes place, I think it's like the first weekend of November, I think is something like that.
Yeah.
But it's in Key West. They pretty well shut the whole town down. It's nothing but Meeting of the Minds. And there's every bar in town has music playing. And it was a lot of fun. And you want to talk about the nicest people on the planet.
I'm telling you.
Is going down there and doing it and like hanging out with them. I mean, they just have a pop-up party at somebody's hotel room.
Yeah.
And it was so much, we had such a good time.
They are, I mean, these are some of the nicest people I've ever met.
Very welcoming.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I mean, this is, musician or not.
Right.
I mean, they're open, open arms, like, come on in. What can we do for you? Let's have a good time together.
Right.
I mean, they are just the sweetest people ever. And on the musician side or the artist side, it really is the same thing. And they're so encouraging. They're all so nice. It's unbelievable how welcoming they are, and that's a motivating factor to keep pushing. It's
Right.
I just want to be involved with these people because they're so nice. No one's out to get you. The other artists, no one's trying to outdo the other one.
Right.
No one. A lot of these guys, they're all good buddies. They're all friends.
Well, the thing, the kind of the correlation that I made with it, that I've always thought was kind of neat. It was kind of like when I came to Springfield to start making little films around here. It's the same type of environment there, or this group, because you can have somebody that this dude like was probably bending wrenches underneath a Jeep, right? And all of a sudden one day he just had a dream. He goes, I always wanted to play music. And so he gets up there and he starts writing a few songs because of this lifestyle that he loves as well. And he gets up there on stage and he has the guts to get up there on stage, number one, and start doing it. Because I saw people down there that were just kind of getting up and just singing and playing guitar and stuff. And all of a sudden they're like local celebrities now because they just had the guts to get up there and go do it.
Yeah, and it is amazing the amount of stories that are out there, and I've read through quite a few of them. I've met quite a few of the musicians at this point, and it spans a wide array of previous jobs.
Oh, I'm sure.
And I'm talking. There's former veterans that have they were working 9 to 5, and now it's like, what? I just want to play music. And, I fell in love with trop rock and I fell in love with Jimmy Buffett style, and I'm going to go hit the road. And
Right.
that's what they do. And it'd be awesome.
Well, they have all these Parrot Head parties all
do.
across the
They
United
do.
States. So these guys are finding work, and
They do, and they play house concerts, and I mean, they make a living of it, and it's awesome to see them do it. But on the other end of that, you have artists in trop rock, and most people I don't think know this outside of the trop rock world. You have artists like Tom Shepard. Tom Shepard wrote, I think it was a #1 hit, Riding with Private Malone. It was a country song.
Oh yeah,
Redneck Yacht Club that Craig Morgan did. I think it was called A Father's Love by Bucky Covington. I mean, songs like
Right.
cuts, hits. His wife Coley McCabe Shepard, she wrote a hit song for She Daisy. She was in the industry. I mean, she's they were living it,
Right.
down in Nashville doing the thing. Aaron Schurz co-wrote "Girl in a Country Song" by Maddie and Tay. Jesse Rice co-wrote "Cruise" for Florida Georgia Line. I mean, and these guys are all involved in trop
Right.
rock. So it's amazing the songwriters that are in this, And
Well, you think about how many ears are in that whole like Parrot Head trop rock community right now. And I mean, from a business standpoint, why not? I mean, you do have, and it would be one thing if you were doing like, you know, classically trained cello music. That's probably not as inviting. But trop rock, just the nature of it, like, hey man, chill, sit down on the beach.
Yeah.
The nature of that music lends itself to being able to be, you know, to being able to get up there and like do your stuff. And if people like it and if they're feeling it, I mean, they're going to let you know really quick. I mean, and I think that's what's kind of cool. You started, when was this? This was probably about 2 years ago.
Yeah.
You started doing or actually playing at a couple of trop rock events, right?
I did. So Brad had approached me a long time ago. I was playing at Prison Brews. And I remember in Jefferson City.
Yeah.
This was numerous years ago. And Brad had approached me and said, you should really think about doing this trop rock deal.
I think I remember.
And I was like, well, you know, what are we talking about, Brad? And he was like, oh, you should really do this trop rock thing, you know, and he was giving me examples of the kind of music, you know, that they played. And like you said, you and I loved Jimmy Buffett. We loved the older, you know, the Jimmy Buffett stuff,
well, our exposure was Jimmy Buffett's greatest hits.
It was
the yellow
album with the red print.
That was the one that we had.
Absolutely. Yeah. And, you know, I thought, okay, well, I don't really know anything but the hits from Jimmy Buffett. So I kind of just didn't really think much else about it after that.
And by the way, if you've never listened to the greatest hits of Jimmy Buffett, that album, give it a listen. There's actually, I don't know, there's probably 10 songs on there. And I don't think there's one bad song on any of it. You've probably heard all of them.
You know, what's interesting, just a quick sidetrack, is during the beginning stages of COVID, when artists were doing a lot of stuff inside, I think that's when this was. I don't remember if I saw it on, you know, Facebook or chasing rabbit holes on YouTube and found it, you know, but it was, the Killers were doing an acoustic version. It looked like in a hotel room, but, of A Pirate Looks at 40. And Brandon Flowers at the beginning, you know, he's talking about, if you go back and listen to Jimmy Buffett's older stuff, it's a workshop on songwriting. Like, what he did is basically a blueprint for, if you want to write a good song, this guy's got it.
They're very descriptive songs, and as soon as you start listening to it, you I don't want to say you're transported there, but you definitely do.
It's 100% relatable.
You can visualize it, and you're there. Yeah,
it's every thought you've ever had on vacation. You know, when you went to the beach, and it's like, yeah, I could live this life.
Right.
I could do it forever. You know, like any of that stuff. It's kind of like, man, I could do this. I could really do this. Or, you know, maybe I had a couple too many, feeling pretty good. I could do this for a long time. You know, right. and you've escaped reality.
Right.
You know, but you got to go back to work in a week. You know, but these guys are talking about, no, we're going to live it every day.
Right.
But so I didn't think much else about it. And then Brad came to me, it was a couple years later. He was like, hey, you know, I'm gonna have some people over to the house, and we're gonna have a party on the back deck, and you should come over and play. And that was kind of my first introduction to what a house concert would be. And I learned a couple, quote unquote, trop rock, you know, hits.
To appease the masses.
Yeah. And so played those. And then again, didn't think much about it. And so fast forward to 2 years ago, and they're having this event down at the Lake of the Ozarks called Trop Rock in the Ozarks. And as you mentioned earlier, they have these festivals and stuff all across the United States. And
they're beer parties, folks.
Yeah, they're a good time. They're a good time.
They're beer parties by a pool, is what they are.
They're beer parties by a pool with the coolest people on the planet. I mean, again, sweetest people ever. But Brad was like, hey, you know, I'm thinking of having an after party at this event in our suite. Would you want to play it? I'm like, absolutely. So I bring my stuff, set it up, and Brad basically, he used up every favor that he ever had with some of these artists, because I remember hearing him go up to one of them and say, "Listen, you owe me." And I need you to come to our after party, and I need you to hang out, and I need you to listen to David play a couple songs. You get up and play a couple songs. Like, I need you to do this. And they did. The artists graciously did. They showed up, they hung out, and it was a good introduction for me.
Yeah. Tell them the song that you did, though. Because there was one song in particular that you played that is not a trop rock song. It's actually from a show called Les Mis, right?
Yeah, so that's been kind of a... That's always funny to explain to people, because... So a few years back, I played Jean Valjean in Les Miserables. And there's a big song that he sings at the end called Bring Him Home, which is... It's not a trop rock song. It's not a pop song. It's
that might be actually kind of cool to see if you could make it into a trop rock song.
I bet I get sued for that one. But so yeah, that song's always, you never know when that request is going to come, but it did at this trop rock after party. So here's all these people, 3:00 in the morning, hammered, getting into it. And then I don't know if it was Brad, if it was Keith Inlow, or somebody was like, play Bring Him Home. I'm like, oh my gosh, are you serious? Like, everybody's in a party mood.
We're trying to shut everybody up. So play this song.
Play Bring Him Home. So anyway, I played it, and it got quiet, and so it took a little while to get the party going again after that. But
Bring Him Home's kind of like it's kind of the buzzkill of it's good to listen to, but it definitely brings the level back down. You're like, oh, okay.
You know what I've learned that I have to do, because I play it at I play it at West Main Pizza.
West Main Pizza is lately that's like your venue for a lot.
You know what? It became my steady show, my weekly show. And I just fell in love playing at the place. There's a group of people that come every week, and
David doesn't have parrot heads. He has another little group that follows him around to a lot of his shows.
Yeah.
Have they been called anything?
I don't think so.
Baker heads.
Pizza heads. No, they're all, great people, and they all have their requests. And so what happens anymore is every Thursday night, it was like you can see them all walk in, and you look, and you're like, okay, I know there's 35 requests right there, so I can play 2 songs that I want to play, but then the rest all right, I better get started. But what I've learned playing there is I have to announce it's time for a show tune. And if you do that, that helps break the ice a little bit, because if there are people there that...
So you're prepping them.
Yeah,
for a
if
show
there's
tune.
people there that haven't ever been there, first off, they go, did he just say show tune? Like, he's going to play a show tune? And then they're like, the first thing they're thinking of is, Memory from Cats, or they're thinking of,
Razzle Dazzle from Chicago.
Yeah, something from Meet Me in St. Louis. And so anyway, if I make that announcement, then it at least prepares people that, okay, you're going to hear something a little bit different than what you've heard for the last, hour and a half.
Right.
And I usually try to do it towards the end of the night. So. But yeah. But again, it's, the nature of the song lends itself to tears, I think, at times. And things like that. But
So we got a little bit off track. So you released this single on Radio Trop Rock. Is that correct?
I did. Yes, I did. So kind of to go back, somebody that I met at that first after party in Brad and Brenda's suite, his name's Eric Babin. And Eric and his wife Gina own the radio station and run the radio station, Radio Trop Rock.
And that's a internet radio station.
Internet radio station, and I think it's the largest one.
Really?
They travel all over. I mean, they go to the events. They do live, feeds from the events. So I met him, and he said, "Hey, you need to send me your stuff." And I was like, "Eric, I don't. What do you mean?" And he was like, "Just send me your songs."
Now, up to that point, you'd only written what, maybe
5, maybe 6 songs, maybe 2 that I would ever think of sending.
One of them was for a hunting show, wasn't it?
Well, I didn't count that one. Yeah, so maybe that's 6.5 that I did. But yeah, up to that point, that was the only, other than the acoustic CD that I put out, that was the only one that got any traction.
Was the
hunting show?
The hunting show?
Yeah, it was called Back Outdoors. It was on, I think it was Sportsman's Channel, and I remember Kelly Cruz and his wife had come up to his wife Jessica come up to. I think the winery that I was playing at, and he was like, "Hey, have you ever written anything?" And I was like, "I mean, I've got some." And he's like, "Well, you think you could write a song for a hunting show?" And I was like, I'll give it a shot." And so I sat down at one point. Took me about 15 minutes and wrote this out. Had some guys record it, and they were
Jay Pelzer was on that, wasn't he?
No, Chris Tabor.
Chris
was
Tabor,
on it.
okay.
Trying to remember who all played all the parts on it. It was most of the guys, I think, at Five Turn Knot.
Okay.
Conrad.
I remember that one. That was...
Yeah, Conrad kind of helped facilitate that, and I think Mike Kivett recorded that one too. But yeah, so I got to hear that on Sportsman's Channel one time, I think.
Yeah, enough of that. All right, I'm moving.
Yeah,
on.
so I met with Eric met Eric, and he said, send me your stuff. And I was like, gosh, I don't really have any. But that right there was the knowing. He said, send me your stuff. And I said, I really don't have anything. Well, when you get some, send it.
Right.
That to me was the motivation or the green light to go, you know what? Get off your butt and start writing. And, you call yourself a creative.
Right.
What are you doing that's creative?
Right.
And so finally I sat down and I thought, well, it's too late for me to pick up watercolors. So I might as well, I kind of know how to write. So let me just put it out there.
Right.
And I have enough people around me, yourself included, who are critical enough that I'm going to know this song was decent or it's not.
Right.
Maybe you should move in a different direction, or
right.
I like this, I don't like this. And some people don't have that. I mean, some people are surrounded by people that just go, oh man, you're so great. Well, that doesn't do anything for me. What does something for me is like, I kind of like that part, but I didn't care for that part.
Right.
And I get hurt, I get angry, and then I go change it, and then I don't do that again. And it's usually pretty spot on.
And it's funny because you and I grew up, our parents were not necessarily performers. Dad got up very nervously in front of church every now and then and sang.
With a beautiful voice.
With a beautiful voice, but he got up there very nervously and sang. We didn't have a lot of examples of getting up in front of a group of people and doing that kind of stuff, or putting what we created out there and letting it be destroyed in front of us.
Yeah.
But we figured it out somewhere. I don't know whether it was because you and I did it to each other, or because Mom and Dad were fairly critical of what we put out and made sure that we put good stuff out, or that we always put our best foot forward. But it's always, and it's funny when you talk to people and go, oh, did your parents do that kind of stuff? I'm like, no, our parents didn't do that kind of stuff. And they're like, really? Because you and your brother both are just like, uber talented and out there, which our parents are talented. They're just not talented for everyone in a 50 square radius mile to see. Yeah. They're talented that we've been able to see. Just you and I, we've tended to kind of gravitate towards the mass market, I guess, of putting things out there.
Yeah, I mean, I've thought about that a lot, and it is interesting. It's almost like the stars kind of aligned, and you and I figured out at some point that, hey, we've got a talent. Like, let me just dip my toe in the water and see what the response is. Because if it's bad, I'm not going to do it. And and you know what? Everyone was right. You shouldn't do this. You should just go do this. And so you dip your toe in the water one time and you get feedback that is positive. And in my case, it was, I remember David Gillespie, who was my first vocal music teacher. I remember auditioning, or not really auditioning, they're just trying to figure out what part you sing in choir. And I went in and sang, and of course, in the 7th grade, everybody wants to be a bass. All the guys want to be a bass. And like, well, my voice is dropped, so I'll be over here in the bass section. Well, I was exactly the same way. Was a football player, athlete, so it's like, I'm going to be in the basses because that's just what we do. And I go in there and sing, and he goes, oh, you're going to be a first tenor. And I mean, my world just crumbled. Like, what do you mean? What does this mean?
Right.
And
well, it's like your nephew, Sam, he's an alto.
Good for him.
And he hates it.
Good for him.
He absolutely hates it.
I'd kill to be an alto.
I was like, Dad, when's my voice gonna drop? But it might not ever drop. I said you might have got your Uncle David's gene. You may not ever drop.
I tell you what, I could sit down and change his mind on that for sure. But David Gillespie was the first one that really clued me in that, hey, you have a talent here in this, and you need my boy. You have got it, Dorothy Gish, and he was the first one, that kind of said that. And in the 7th grade, you're looking, what's my thing?
What sets me apart?
Yeah, and for me, it was kind of like, well, hey, this could be it.
Right.
So anyway, I knew Dad sang, obviously, and so and a lot of our family members were really into music and were music directors and performers.
Yeah,
and
from
like
a choral and church choirs and what was our one uncle?
Charles Melvin,
the
Centurymen.
Yeah, he was with the Centurymen.
Yeah, which was a traveling choral group. We had 100 men from around the country, and they traveled around, did shows, so I felt, hey, I should be a part of this.
And we grew up with a ton of music in the house.
Gosh.
I mean, I look at my friends and even Michelle growing up, and Michelle was a singer and all that, but we grew up with like 5 times the amount of music that they grew up in the house. And we always had a stereo upstairs. We were always listening to it. We were always, I remember when we were kids, we had those albums of moms, and we would just sit and listen to them.
What were they called? Like Tell House hits of the 60s.
Yeah. And we would just listen to them over and over and over and over and over again.
You know what's interesting is that you and I think when it came to the arts, whether it was acting or whether it was movies or music, we had this weird thing where it was, we're going to listen to it over and over and over and over again. And I remember distinctly taking the Toto 4 album, and it had Africa on one side and Rosanna on the other. And was when the record player was upstairs. Mm-hmm. And playing Rosanna, and when it was done, flip it over and put Africa on, then flip it back, and just back and forth. And we did that. I remember, you and I listened to it over and over again.
Sick of repetition.
We memorized who it was. We memorized, the years. And then when it came to movies, I was talking about this yesterday, because Molly was singing, "She is my dear, my darling one." And I started singing.
Darby O'Gillen.
Yeah, I started singing along. She was like, "Dad, how do you know that?" And I was like, your uncle and I used to watch that movie over and over again. And I said, in order to break the madness, we would watch it maybe 3 times in a row, and then we'd throw Pete's Dragon in, and then we'd do the Apple Dumpling Gang, and then we go back to Darby O'Gill. I said,
We grew up watching a lot of like the classic Disney movies.
we memorized the lines, we memorized the actors, and I don't know what it was, because I don't know that Mom and Dad were so into that, but you and I were. And so I think that's part of that.
Yeah.
That whatever that little trader gene is, I think that's part of it.
And we always had a good. I remember like that was like our fun. That was like what we did for fun growing up. Was like, hey, let's do this.
Yeah.
This would be fun. Let's sit here all day and let's watch this 3 times.
Yeah.
Okay. I remember one time we were watching. I can't remember what movie it was. And I distinctly remember this feeling. It may have been like maybe the first time. And I remember I was playing it and it finished. And I remember looking over at you and going, you want to watch it again? And you're like, yeah. And I was like, did we just become best friends?
Do you want to eat this entire jar of pickles too?
But and maybe that is what it is. Maybe it just the sheer amount of joy we had growing up doing that stuff, the music and the movies and just we did a lot of like just like playing guns and action stuff and
so for you going off to the Navy, coming back, in not doing any theater before that, what was the motivating factor for you to go, I'm going to audition for West Side Story? Because to me, without a background in theater, all of a sudden, I remember when you were like, I'm auditioning for West Side Story, I thought, I didn't know you wanted to do anything like that.
Right.
So what was that thing?
There was a couple things. I remember the Monday that we got back, that I got back from the Navy. It was a Monday or Tuesday. You had a concert up at Simonson. It was the one where you did that song, My Cat Went Fiddle-I-Fee.
Oh my God, bought me a cat.
And anyways, I remember going up there. And I was dating a girl that I'd started dating before I had come back. I was dating a girl, and her and I and Mom and I believe Dad went up there to go watch this little choir concert that you were doing. And prior to that, I was gone for 2 years prior to that, so I wasn't around when you were singing. I didn't know. We always sang in the car, or we would sing in the basement, but I didn't know that you were into singing. And so it was a little bit more on the same side as myself. I'm like, well, hey, he can sing. I got just as much as you got confidence off of me as an older brother. I got confidence off of you going, well, if he can do it, then I know that I can do it,
Yeah.
But then part of it too, and I'll be very honest, I was chasing a girl.
Ah, there we go.
And
she was really into music too.
She was, yeah. And what happened was, and I didn't know, I didn't think much about singing. I wasn't really big into singing in front of anybody. But one night she was like, we were talking to each other on the phone. I was in Virginia in the Navy, and she said, hey, will you sing to me? Which I thought was an odd request. I was like, no. And she was like, oh, well, I'd kind of like for you to sing to me. So I thought about it for a few days. Well, there at the base, they had like this activities room where you could play pool and all this kind of stuff. Well, back in the back, they had sound rooms. So you could go in, some of these guys could play drums, they could play guitar, and they had a sound chamber. Well, they had like a microphone like this and headphones, and you could go in and you could sing. So I went in there and I started singing, what song was it? Can't Help Falling in Love. I sang the acapella. I would just sing it acapella. So I worked it up for a couple weeks, and I was scared to death. And I finally called her up, and I said, hey, I got something for you. So I sang to her over the phone. And again, this was before internet. This was before, emails or anything like that. So your only contact was either snail mail are calling on the phone. So I got done singing the song to her. I was really nervous. And of course, she was into acting and theater and singing and all that stuff. And she was like, "You got a really pretty voice." And I was like, "Really?" I said, "You're not just saying that?" She goes, "No, you got a really pretty voice." So flash forward, she didn't want to have anything to do with me. That's fine. Got the Dear John letter, got back. And when I got back home, I saw her one day. And she was like, "Hey, you need to audition for West Side Story." I'm like, "I'm not going to do that." She goes, "You have a beautiful voice. You need to go up there and sing." And so I thought, oh, what the heck do I got to lose? And I did it. And the thing is there was no other guys besides me and Brandon Bice and like 2 other guys that were even close to my age. And I was like, well, this is easy pickings as far as being able to go in and do a show. And so after I did it that one time, I mean, I was hooked. I was like, it's like I needed to be there for the remainder of my life. I loved acting.
It is a rush. I mean, it's a rush that when I've done shows, I don't get. It's a different kind of rush. I mean, it is, and it's. I think because performing for me is a lot of the times it's just solo.
Right.
But when you get up there and you're an ensemble putting on a show, it's a very much team effort, and
You can still mess it up.
absolutely, absolutely. But when you have those nights where the performance went off pretty
Right.
much flawless, like, man, it doesn't get much better.
And, like, so for you, because you've been doing a lot of these songs for a long time, do you still get the same type of rush on like just a regular average acoustic night, or is it some nights is it a job?
It's I'm going to try to explain this without sounding like super egotistical.
No, wait, do the egotistical one first.
Here's the egotistical version. So there are nights when you play Brown Eyed Girl, and
Like every night?
the entire place erupts.
Right.
Like, oh my gosh, I can't get enough of Brown Eyed Girl. They've heard the song 1,276 times, and probably 50% of the time by a different artist each time.
Right.
And they probably cheer just as loud for every single one of those. And so you get the feedback from that. Well, then you can play a song that range-wise, you just hit 4 octaves in this song. Not one clap. And you're like, do you realize what I just did? Because I'm flying pretty high. I hit that note pretty well.
Right.
And nothing. And that's what brings you back down to reality.
I know why it is too. You know why it is, right?
Why?
It's the same reason why Sweet Caroline does it. It's because they know the words to the song and they can sing it. And that's the only reason why they get jazzed up about those songs. I mean, they're not, like you're doing like, what's the George Michael one you do? Don't Let the Sun.
Don't let the sun go down?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you can do that one. Everybody loves that song.
Yeah.
But the reason why they love it is, number one, you sound great doing it, and you sound just like George Michael when you do. Actually, you do both parts on that one too.
Yeah. I try to have
Yeah.
a little Elton John
Elton
flavor.
John, the garage. But I think a lot of it is because people are familiar with that song. They don't appreciate it. They never appreciated Van Morrison. Like his song that's really hard is what's the one? I want to rock your gypsy soul.
Into the Mystic.
Into the Mystic. That one's gets pretty high there towards the end, doesn't it?
Well,
not for you.
Well, there's one higher note in there.
Yeah,
that he holds.
yeah.
Yeah, and you got to kind of get loud to hit
Right.
it. But yeah.
But those are harder songs than
Yeah,
the Brown Eyed
well,
Girl.
I mean, it's probably like anything else in any trade. What you have to do physically or technically, in the flavor that you put in it, which is your own personal deal. sometimes gets valued, sometimes it doesn't.
Most times doesn't.
Yeah, and you know what you did, and so, not to like, when I get done playing, I pat myself on the back, but I do feel good, like, whew, okay, I hit that note. Thank God. And you're waiting because maybe there's a little sustain on the last chord you played, and you're like, any second they're gonna clap.
Right.
Like any second it's coming.
Well,
and then when it's crickets, again, it's a very sobering feeling when you're like, oh, okay, I'll play Margaritaville next. You know, I mean,
right.
But you, okay, I'm going to go play a standard, you know, that everybody knows. And I think you're right. People know the song and they can sing along, and, you know, they like the groove that you did. And
they can participate.
Yeah, and they participated. And so it's like, hey, the big one now, it kind of has a resurgence from the Blues winning the Stanley Cup is Take Me Home Country Roads.
Oh.
You start playing, you know, you start finger picking. Nobody knows what it is yet. But you're finger picking, and all of a sudden you go, almost heaven. And everybody's like, oh. And everybody starts singing. Right. They start singing along to it. And, you know, there's a high note in that one too, or a higher note.
Luckily for us, we've been practicing that song for a long time.
Yeah. And so that's a hit.
Right.
That, you know, John Denver's not easy to sing. So I do get a good feeling when you get done, but you don't know if they clapped because you sang it well or just they like the song, you know? And so sometimes you don't get the feedback you're looking for.
You know, I had a conversation with someone, I think this was about a year ago, and they were talking, I forget how we got into this conversation. I was in Jeff City, and they were talking about something to the effect of, they were talking to the effect of how much they appreciated what you did, but they kind of were kind of flippant about it. And because you're my brother, I thought, and I got to this point, I was like, you know, here's the thing. I said, you don't realize how much work went into being able to sing that song the way that you want him to sing that song. I want to say it was for a wedding or something. And I don't even think it was the couple. I think it was somebody else that was there at the wedding. But anyways, it was like the sheer amount of work that you had to go into to be able to sing that song. And we've talked about it on the podcast before about how people are just consumers. That's all they do. They just consume. They don't really appreciate the hard work that goes into, like, you know, you look at like what I do, a 30-second commercial. You know, that takes sometimes 2 to 3 weeks to be able to edit, right? Mm-hmm. And you don't think about that. You just consume it and go, oh, that was cool, and you move on to the next one, you know? Or someone comes up and goes, hey, David, play this song, and they throw $1 in your tip jar, and then they walk on. And the hard part is that is the nature, I guess, of the beast. I mean, just to go back, I remember the annoying days of when you were learning how to sing. Like really learning how to sing. I remember when you had that Rock Spectac album for Bare Naked Ladies, and you would be in the basement and you would rewind. Was it Brian Wilson?
Brian Wilson, Old Apartment.
Old Apartment. No, it was Old Apartment. And you would rewind that song because that was CD days.
Yeah.
You would rewind that song, and by then you had graduated to singing with the microphone with the track. And you would literally do it all night long, over and over and over and over and over again. And I was like, give it a rest.
Yeah.
Give it a rest. Stop.
Well, no, and I've talked about this before, you know, because people ask, like, what are you singing through? What do you mean? Like, well, the real high notes where you sound like a woman. Like, what's the program? What's that called? And I was like, oh, I said it's called vocal cords. And they were like, oh, did you get it on Amazon?
Is that an Adobe program?
Like, no, Jesus gave me the vocal cord. I don't, you know, and so you to further explain, it's like, no, And again, I've told this story numerous times, and most of this while you were in the Navy and I'm at home just with mom and dad. I went downstairs and put records, tapes, CDs, whatever on. I put headphones on and I had a microphone and I just sang along with the tracks. And so half the time mom and dad couldn't hear the music. All they could hear was me singing at the top of my lungs, which, to quote Randy Jackson, you know, a little pitchy dog. You know, I mean, some of it had to have been a rough night, you know. And then other times I'd go down and I wouldn't have the headphones on, but I would sing into where I could still hear myself and then sing, you know, with the track. And I would put on just the highest stuff I could get just to work on that range and figure out, how do I hit that note? How do I
This was no voice lessons at this time.
At this time, no. And I remember coming upstairs and mom and dad would never came down and said, "Hey, Dave, can you turn it down?" The only thing is I would come upstairs and I'd walk past dad sitting in the recliner and be like, "Song was a little bit high, wasn't it?" It was a little bit high.
He didn't like us singing high songs.
Yeah, but it was one of those where it's like, you know, I'm never going to hit that note if I don't just keep going for it. And I will do the same thing now, except I don't want anybody to hear it. So I'm usually in the car by myself,
right,
and I'll put that song on. I did it. It kills me to say it, but I did it so many times doing Les Mis, you know, on the song "Who Am I?" And he has the big note at the end, you know, "Who am I to vos exoa?" You know, and that big note, I mean, it's up there.
Yeah.
And I never could hit it chest voice. I mean, I falsettoed every time. I feel terrible about it, but I could never get it to where I had the confidence that I wasn't going to crack.
But how long did you have to prep for that show?
I had about a year.
You did?
But I mean, this is to explain it. Like, I prepped for a year to hit that note and never got it.
Do you think you never got it because you kind of mind screwed yourself out of hitting it?
I did. Things had changed. So I'm playing out in front of people now. And
if you mess that note up,
if I mess that note up, I don't want a chink in my armor. Now, I've got plenty of chinks in my armor,
right,
trust me,
right,
but I don't want that one. And yeah, so it was rough.
It was like back in the day, we used to do a ton of karaoke.
Yeah.
Like, we used to go hit karaoke like every weekend.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you started playing gigs. David didn't sing karaoke anymore. Because if he went up there and messed up a song, well, then,
and
I mean, that would be part of it, wouldn't it?
It does, but it also takes on a new life to where.
Is that below you now?
No, not that. I knew you were going to say that shit. No, not that it's below you, but, you know, you've started accompanying yourself.
Right.
Or you've got a band and you've put all this time and effort into, you know, having this background music played live. Not that I mean, every now and then I get up and do a karaoke song. I love karaoke. I mean, I love it.
Right.
But it's also, it's like, I don't know what it is, but it's like once you start accompanying yourself, it's like, well, I can't go back, you know, to a track.
It's kind of like riding a Harley Davidson versus after you've graduated from a moped.
Well, it's kind of like I bought a Toyota and I also bought stock in the Toyota. I can't go drive a Honda now. Like, I could.
Right.
But I bought stock in it,
right,
so I should be supporting this.
Right.
You know? That it was kind of essentially,
yeah,
I guess what it is. Nothing against Hondas. Like, I would drive one, and you know,
right,
if you gave me the keys, like, I would drive one today. But I'm so invested in Toyota, like,
right,
I don't want to go back. So I guess that's kind of why that dropped off.
But if you were at like a little bar, someplace where nobody knew you,
all day, yeah,
you would sing karaoke.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
And yeah,
And then people will come and go, man, you got such a good voice. You need to get on like Idol.
yeah, that's yeah. You should be on The Voice. Like, oh, well, you know what? Where's the sign up form for that?
So, and to let everyone know, so David he is an actor. He isn't it's not his motivation is to be, but he has performed in several shows in Jefferson City. Actually, we've performed together in a couple of shows. I killed you. No, wait. You killed me.
I killed you.
You killed me.
Killed you.
You played Riff.
I still have the knife.
Do you really?
It's somewhere.
David played Riff.
That or Towns killed Grady with it.
Yeah. David played Riff in West Side Story, and I played Bernardo in West Side Story. Yeah. And David got to kill me. And then we were in Chicago together.
Yeah.
I played let's explain this one. I played Fred Casely, the man that was having an affair with Roxy Hart, and you played Roxy's husband, Amos.
Yeah.
So yeah, we did Footloose together.
Yeah. That was my first show in
That was your
outside
of high school show.
High school and college, yeah. I did the Fantastics in college.
You did Fantastics, and then you did in high school you did Unsinkable Molly Brown
and Pippin.
And Pippin. You played the king in Pippin.
Yeah. And then Michelle played the
the queen, yeah. So we have had a very early on in the days before kids, we did a ton of shows together.
Oh, yeah. Well, and those shows too were more about hanging out after and before. The shows were kind of like, oh yeah, we got a show to do.
Oh crap, we got to do theater tonight.
I just woke up.
Those were the good old days. So, the thing that you've got coming up here is you're finishing up songs, or you have?
I have all the material. Just it's tough when you're not going into a quote unquote studio. Those guys there, that's all they do, is they're there to mix.
So they just work on it till they're done.
Yeah. The guys that I work with, they all have an 8 to 5. They all have kids. They all have families.
You have an 8 to 5.
Yeah, I have a couple 8 to 5.
You got a couple 8 to 5.
And so it's hard to get those schedules to line up, but the benefits of that is that the communication that you have, you're all friends, and so you're able to communicate better. This is how I'm kind of hearing this part, and most of this stuff, I just send the song to them, and I say, here's how here's how I think it should go. I mean, I wrote it. Here's kind of how the melody line goes. But what you guys do with your parts, I really don't care. Like, I trust all of them.
Right.
They're going to do something cool.
Well, and you've worked with them long enough that you kind of know what they're going to do on it.
Yeah.
So from what I listened to last Tuesday to what was released, what day did you release it on?
Friday.
You released on Friday. So from that to Friday, how big of a difference in the song was there?
Not a whole lot. Jay's lead solo got put in after that.
Right, because that wasn't in there.
That wasn't in there yet. And then I added a kind of a tag on the end. It almost kind of makes it sound like an 80s rocker at the end. But I just did a little tagline at the end. And that was it. And then Mike mastered it. To me, the song is different than what is played out there. A lot of it. I mean, there's a lot of tracks on it. Mm-hmm. I mean, I think Jay did like 11 or 12 guitar tracks. And I mean, this song is just
sounds like a Queen song.
It's just thick. I mean, it really is. But as
good luck playing it live, right?
Yeah. Well, that's what I told him. I said, any one of these songs that we do, like, you have to be able to play it just you and an acoustic guitar, and it still hold up,
right?
because you can't be so produced that you can't do
Right.
this thing out in the open. But some of the stuff coming up is going to be, up tempo, fun songs. The next one that I'm doing is called Uno Mas in Cape San Blas. Danny Lewis actually wrote it. Danny and Emily wrote it, his wife. And
So which Danny is he's a banker, right?
He's a loan officer.
He's a loan officer.
Yeah. And yeah, so we're gonna do that one. The only cover I'm putting on there is I'm putting Everything That Glitters by Dan Seals. And Coley McCabe Shepherd is going to sing the duet part on there. He's just going to do some harmony on it.
Really?
Yeah. So that first after party that we did at Trop Rock in the Ozarks, I played that one. And during the song, there's video of it. During the song, she comes up and she was like, "Do you care if I sing backup on this?" I'm like, "No, like absolutely." Right. And so anyway, we did a duet then, and so I thought, hey, this would be really cool to add this on the album.
Yeah, that'd be neat.
So we're gonna do that, and then I've got.
How much is that one gonna cost?
I don't know. I haven't.
Is Dan Seals? Is he still alive?
No, he died.
Is his brother still alive?
I think he may have died too.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, maybe they'll. That'd be awesome.
Maybe
though.
they're okay.
I love that song. It's a great song.
I don't remember how much they were to do a cover, but I think the mediums with which I'm going to put the song on, like it may be a lot. I don't know.
You think 2,000?
God, I hope not, but maybe.
Because I know Ozark Mountain Daredevils charged one of the movies that was done in St. Louis. They charged them $2,200 to use one song.
Wow. Well,
yeah.
I hope not.
Dan,
either way, I'm putting
wherever
on
you
there.
are, Dan Seals, don't charge that much.
Dan. It was interesting. I was watching YouTube, and it was one of these like good time country hours where you got some of these musicians and they're all sitting around and each one takes a turn doing their song. And there's one of Dan Seals doing this song. I didn't realize he played the guitar left-handed, upside down, Jimi Hendrix.
Like
style.
Jimi Hendrix.
Yeah. I didn't realize that.
Really? Well, I didn't know his brother was Seals and Croft for a long time.
And
that older brother?
I don't know. Well, because he was England Dan, with
right?
England Dan and John Ford Coley. I don't know which one was older, but I think they both passed away.
And if my listening audience doesn't know anything about this, you just need to go out and listen to it. It's really good, like 70s and 80s country / kind of easy rock. Would you call it?
Yeah, it's easy listening kind
it's
of
easy
deal,
listening stuff.
The song itself, I mean, just the lyrics of that song, nobody's written a song about that topic.
And it's kind of, I mean, if you listen to it, it's super sad. It's a sad song, and you're like, wow. I mean, it's kind of the epitome of a really well-written country song.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, it was interesting on that video just to see Waylon Jennings singing along.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. I mean, he's sitting there, and singing along with this song, and they get to the chorus, and here's all these old country performers singing along with it. It was pretty amazing.
Because they probably love the song.
Oh,
too.
yeah. I don't even know if Dan Seals wrote that song. I don't know who wrote that song.
Well, I guess we could look it up real quick. Yeah. But
somebody's going to ask.
So have you thought of like the title of your album yet or anything? Is any of that stuff in the works right now?
Yes, it is. And I don't know.
You're not gonna say anything. Yet.
Well, no. Like all I know about it is, I like different, and for me, it's I don't like drawing that parrot.
Right.
So I sat down and I'm trying to think of logos or whatever, and I remember that business card, which I got a funny story about that too. But business card where I've just got that scowl on my face.
Yeah.
And we used that as a business card. And I'm drawing out this parrot. And I thought, this parrot needs to have the same look on his face as that scowling picture. And so I draw this parrot out, and I was like, that's pretty close. And I thought, Angry Parrot Productions, like, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
Anything you do, the parrot just doesn't have a really happy look on his face. Mainly because if I'm at ease, I have that scowl on my face. I'm not in a bad mood. I just look that way.
Yeah, he always looks that way. Ever since he came home from the hospital, he's been that way.
And so, everything in Trop Rock is typically like happy, positive. And for me, it was like, you know what? It's a little bit different, and that kind of symbolizes me. I think I look like I'm not having a good time, but you're a parrot, so what else is there to do? But it was funny. I was playing the other night. And
Maybe you could do that Angry All the Time song too.
I used to do that all the time. But I had my business cards up, and these ladies were waiting for a table, and they were all standing right next to me. And I went up, I think I was on break, and I came back, and they were all standing there, and they were like, hey, we need to tell you something. And I was like, oh, okay, did you break something, or did you spill a drink, or what happened? And they were like, you need new business cards. I was like, what are you talking about? They were like, you're scowling in this picture. Why would you use that as your business card? So I had to tell them the background and the story of it. And they were like, oh, okay.
It was tough back in the day.
It was tough back then.
So to give you all a little bit of backstory, back when I had my photography business, I forget what we were doing.
Sitting on the front porch.
Was it the front porch of West Circle?
Callaway.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
So we were sitting on the front porch of my parents' old house and subsequently David's house, and we were sitting out on the front porch, and I just happened to have my camera out there and shot a picture of David while he was playing guitar, and then I photoshopped the hell out of it. And
well, I think it was one of those, I was looking down trying to pick through something, and you said, David, look here. And I looked up, and you took a picture.
Yeah.
And it was like, wow, that's kind of cool. I mean,
and so then we used that on all your business cards.
Yeah.
And you've been using them for...
Still got them. Still haven't gotten rid of all.
How many did you buy?
1,000?
1,000?
I think. Yeah. I still got a full box full.
So that's been at least 15 years ago. Maybe it was more than that because the kids weren't even born.
Yeah.
So if you'd have given out one a day, you'd been done by now.
Be done now.
Well, Dave, I know you got to get going.
Man, it's been awesome. This is fun.
This is a ton of fun.
I don't know if anybody's going to care about our stories.
Who
but
cares?
It was fun to get it out.
We haven't cared up to this point, so what difference does it make, right?
Honestly, folks, we have the same conversation. If we were sitting in each other's living room, it would sound exactly the same.
There might be a little more yelling periodically.
Yeah. A couple beep, beep, beep.
Well, brother, thanks for being on.
Thanks for having me.
I love you.
Love you too.
Your album's going to do great.
I hope so, man.
And when it does, just remember us small people back here. All right, bud. I love you.
Love you too.
This bar stool kept my feet off the ground longer than I care to remember. She finally packed up and left a year ago, a cold night in September. Yeah, she's somewhere on the beach. Wind's in her hair and the sand's on her feet. She's not missing me, 'cause she needs the sun out the dark of the night. All I could be was a neon light, but the sun's still shining on me so hard of mine. If I set sail now, I can be there in the morning time. Oh, I know I missed the forest for the trees, but I'll be there, darling, wooden bowls and salty seas. Touch the shoreline, Marina Del Rey, and I can feel you on the trade winds. The man at the bridge said he'd seen your face, but he couldn't remember when. He says she's somewhere on the beach. The wind's in her hair and the sand's on her feet, boy, don't lose her. She needs the sun, nothing darker than night. Boy, take her by the hand, you can make it right. 'Cause the sun's still shining on the so heart of mine. If I set sail now, I can be there in the morning time. Oh, I'll never miss the forest for the trees. And I'll be there, darling, be wooden bowls and salty seas. Eyes meet mine, she's within reach, I'm not losing her. She needs the sun, nothing darker than night. Baby, take my hand, I can make it right. 'Cause the sun's still shining on the so heart of mine. If I set sail now, I can be there in the morning time. Oh, I'll never miss the forest for the trees. And I'll be there, darling, be wooden bowls and salty seas. Yeah, I'll be there, darling, take my hand. I'll be there, darling, take my
You have been listening to the Bravo Creative Podcast. Analysis of your biometrics have been compiled and calculated. You are now a minuscule part of the collective. Enjoy the rest of your pitiful day.